1 year on, this must be a tough day for you on any level. But I know it's because you are so impassioned about wanting to get your message out there that you're talking to us this morning. You're a nurse, Carol. I didn't even realise that. What was it like being on that ward, and what do you feel could have been done differently?
I think I felt in disbelief. I regret not speaking up more that night, to be honest, because I had a false sense of security with my colleagues that I believed that they were doing everything that they could. That's what I thought.
Were they
was
telling
happening.
you that?
Well, nobody, in fact, was speaking to us at all. But what I assumed wrongly was the fact that they had looked at Talkspace.
That would be the tests, the toxicology test?
No, it's a printout sort of guidance on how to deal with that particular overdose. And it gives you sort of like a management plan and also indicates what potentially can happen to the person.
Tell us about the pills that she'd taken. She got them on the internet from the Ukraine, hadn't she?
Did,
I mean,
yes.
they're pretty strong stuff. They actually heat up the body.
They do, yes.
Yeah, they work by... It's an industrial compound, in fact.
Right.
It's not a diet pill, as a lot of people... It's a so-called diet pill. So it's an industrial substance inserted into capsules and illegally sold over the internet.
And how many had she taken?
She told the medics that she'd taken 30, but she always exaggerated, and she'd exaggerated about the number of previous overdoses, etc. You know, we think she probably took a small handful.
OK, but that's far too many. Far too many. And she felt that she was burning up on the inside, didn't she?
That's right, yeah. The effects of the industrial compound is it's a pesticide, it's a precursor to explosives, etc.
Right.
And it accelerates the metabolism of the body to an extent that the body can no longer withstand it, to the point of cardiac arrest.
So she is lying on a trolley on a very, very packed A&E. Was it you that said you counted another 30 people also in that position? Meanwhile, you are desperate and she's getting hotter and hotter and hotter.
When I arrived at the hospital, because Doug was there before me, because I'd worked that day, actually teaching resuscitation. And so he arrived at the hospital, I arrived about an hour and a half later. She was already in resuscitation area of the A&E department for cardiac monitoring. But at that time, they just believed they would just monitor for that. Nobody had read the Talkspace guidance.
So they didn't know what was going on
inside?
No,
they didn't.
They didn't know? Right.
Not at all. And
what should they have done if they'd known?
Well, she should have remained in a high observation area, and then they would have anticipated also that she would have potentially deteriorated, and they would have been prepared for intervention in a very timely manner, where she was moved around the department in three different areas within a 20-minute time frame.
So they lost focus basically on her, and then she began to have fits.
I actually witnessed the fit, which was very distressing for myself, obviously being a mom and a nurse, and I was the one that had to call the nurse over when I witnessed that she was fitting.
Whereas if she'd been under observation, they would have seen that happening and would have been able to intervene then and there.
Well, to be fair, she would have been in a very high dependent area where they would have, like I said, anticipated the collapse that occurred.
And the fits led, as you say, to cardiac arrest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The hospital has said, the Worcestershire NHS Trust has said, we're sorry for the shortcomings in Bethany's care and can reassure people using our urgent care services that we've taken action since February last year that address the issues highlighted by the coroner today in your case. You are concerned, though, aren't you, and actually want to speak to Theresa May. You feel that not just for your individual case for poor Bethany, but for anyone, there is now a crisis in A&E. Mistakes are being made.
There is, and you know, in Bethany's case, there were failings of a few staff in particular, which obviously I won't mention, but not the hospital as a whole. And you know, the hospital is under so much pressure, and the staff are under so much pressure that inevitably mistakes are carrying on and being made.
There doesn't seem to be any plans to tackle a situation of overcrowding. The Worcester Royal Hospital in particular has been under special measures for years, almost 3 years in fact. And the situation, I mean, the government are blaming winter pressures, etc. But the problem we know is they're all year round. We have family and friends who use the hospital, who work at the hospital, and we know the situation is still the same.
The coroner said at the inquest in his final remarks that your daughter, despite the problems at the hospital, which he highlighted and which the hospital clearly have accepted and held their hands up for, he said she probably would have died anyway. You don't feel that, do you?
We don't feel that at all, quite strongly, because at the inquest we had 3 expert witnesses, and the coroner has made that decision to use just the one expert and use that based on the opinion that he came to yesterday. Whereas the other 2 witnesses, their evidence was quite clear that they do believe that she stood a good chance of surviving, bearing in mind that she had the lowest level in her blood, post-mortem blood, worldwide of
people
DMP.
who died of
DMP, yeah.
So she was in with a chance.
Yes.
How are you going to be able to go forward? Because apart from anything, your grief is still very raw, isn't it?
We don't believe Beth committed suicide. This was another cry for help, as before. So one of our objectives is to see, what we can do about the actual verdict itself. We also need to follow up on the actual DMP substance with the appropriate government departments to ensure that either gets banned or licensed, because it's just so freely available on the internet.
That's shocking.
And to get something that's posted through your door that can potentially kill you with no known antidote, it's worse than a snake bite.
Absolutely. Well, good luck with seeing Mrs. May. Are you proceeding with that?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully she'll answer our call to find out when this will all come to an end in our A&E departments.